Bad news, actually, for the cruise lines. CDC recommending that people avoid cruises even if they're fully vaccinated. And Seema Modi has that story for us. Hi, Seema.
Hey, Wilfred, good morning. That's right. Avoid cruise travel. That is the recommendation from the CDC as more ships disclose COVID cases on board. Roughly 90 ships, according to the CDC's website. The cruise lines are not happy with this development, saying, quote, it's particularly perplexing considering that cases identified on cruise ships consistently make up a very slim minority of the total population on board. That is a spokesperson from the cruise lobbying group CLIA. The move by the CDC is seen as another setback for the industry that just restarted sailings in June after being shut down by U.S. health officials for nearly 15 months due to COVID, putting enormous pressure on their balance sheets and pushing Carnival, Royal, and the Norwegian Cruise Line to take out debt and issue stock. But the story in recent months has all been about the recovery as more passengers set sail and the major cruise lines bring back more ships to sea, around 60% of their fleet currently. Carnival says the announcement from the CDC has not impacted current sailings. Bookings data in the coming weeks will tell us just how the cruise line's loyal customer base are responding to the CDC putting cruises in its highest COVID risk category, a level 4. Guys, this is purely a recommendation, not enforceable. Of course, coming weeks will be key to understand the recovery story.
Seema, it's really interesting that you're getting the CDC making this recommendation, yes, specific to cruise ships, which do have different dynamics, to a broader recommendation, which is to relax quarantine rules, and not saying that I want them to tighten rules across the board or to add other subsectors like aircraft or trains as well as cruise ships. But it's quite confusing, the messaging. What are the cruise lines saying to you in terms of how annoying this is and the kind of mixed message aspect that the CDC is giving out?
Yeah, it's a great point, Wilfred. I've been speaking to a number of executives overnight, and the overall reaction is that they're disappointed, frustrated. They really feel like they've spent the last year protocols that will keep passengers safe on board, isolation techniques, more medical staff to ensure that if people do test positive, they have a plan to contain the number of people who test positive and ensure that we don't see a repeat of March of 2020. And I should point out, even with what we're seeing right now, 90 ships with COVID cases on board, it's still a small percentage of the total number of passengers, which suggests that their COVID protocols are working, right? So that's where the cruise lines sort of stand right now. I think they understand where the CDC is, what they're doing, given what they're seeing at sea. I think the CDC in general is very afraid of what happened in March 2020 happening again. The cruise lines would argue that won't happen again. We have these new protocols in place, but of course we'll have to see what happens. Another thing to take into account, yes, we're seeing more ships with COVID on board, but hospitalization still very low. In fact, Royal Caribbean yesterday in its business update said that while they're seeing more COVID cases on board, no one who has Omicron is being hospitalized.